voice level from you, Michael.
Hello, hello. Dum-de-dum-de-da-de-da-de-da.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Ladd. Tonight, I have the pleasure of bringing you one of Australia's newest exports. For years in their homeland, they played coast to coast from Sydney to Melbourne. The group features the Ferris brothers, Tim on guitar, Andrew on keyboards, and John on drums. Add guitarist saxophonist Kirk Pengilly, bass player Gary Beers, and the man you'll hear tonight, lead vocalist Michael Hutchence. And you have a very hard-working, very dynamic rock and roll band. Welcome to an interview of In Excess.
I understand that you guys in Australia played and were real successful on the touring circuit there before you really had a record out, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of bands did it that way because the most powerful thing you could do to get a contract was to sort of turn up at the record company with about 20,000 followers, theoretically, behind you that come and see you and pack up pubs and say, look, you know, what more do you want? We need a contract. And that's the way you got your contract. It's changing now. Now there are bands that literally come from nowhere and you see them on television and they've got a big single, which never happened before. We used to play a lot. You know, first year, when we got an album out eventually, during that year, we must have played about 300 or so gigs. So,
is that right?
Yeah,
1 year?
We play a lot.
Boy. And driving that?
Yeah, driving around a fair bit. You know, we've played everywhere. We've played in the desert, we've played in mining towns, you know, isolated places.
Recently, it seems there's been a lot of new bands emerging from the land down under, and that finally, Australia is ready for the rest of the world.
I don't know if people know, but I think Australians generally had a little bit of an inferiority complex, mainly from the English, I'd say. And there's always been that thing, they're the Poms and we're the convicts, you know. And that's always been around, but I think we've finally shrugged that off. I think there has always been a certain amount of talent there, and it sophisticates itself. It kind of runs off itself for many years, and it's like a foundation. And everybody says, hey, you know, this really, regardless, this really is good. And then you start getting the feedback from the rest of the world that, yeah, that's great. So everybody's quite proud of themselves at the moment, I'd say.
Our interview with Australia's own In Excess will continue right after this. We're back now with our interview of In Excess. Early on, the band's existence is sporadic, even though it's all in the family.
You had a strange event happen when you formed the band with, is it pronounced Ferris, the brothers in the band?
Yeah, Ferris. Yeah.
Is it literally true that the three of them showed up independently of each other for the audition?
Yeah, just about, yeah, because what happened is there's a friend of Tim's and Kirk's said, look, I'm going back, this is American actually, so I'm going back to States, so I've got a few songs here I just want to record and take them back. And just about independently, we all turned up at the studio. Andrew and I got there together. Tim came in being a friend of this guy. Kirk was brought in last actually, because we needed some extra vocals. David, this guy really loved Johnny's drumming and brought him in. And he said, what about Gary on bass? Because he was kind of part of this little thing that was going with Andrew and I that we were thinking of a band. Literally did it in one day. About midnight we finished up the whole thing and said, you know, this is much better than all the separate ideas put together. And the three Ferrises never played together in the band. And we were really happy with it.
When was the first time you came here? Was it on a tour, or did you come here looking for it?
I lived here when I was about 15.
Oh yeah?
For a year. Got back to Australia and that's when I met Andrew. You know, Andrew, Kirk and I went on a little pilgrimage about 80. Or 81, yeah. And we were going around the world. We came here first, went to New York and LA. Just had a look at things really, you know, see what's happening. Ended up in London for a few weeks to write for Shaboo Shaboo.
After the vinyl debut of Shaboo Shaboo, In Excess returns to the U.S. for their first American tour. This time, vocalist Michael Hutchence finds the musical climate quite different.
We were shocked, actually, when we got back here with the band, the change in Los Angeles, for one thing. The first time, we thought, well, it looks like we're going to have to go to Europe as usual to start, you know. But by the time the album was finished and these, you know, things like all the programming had changed on radio and things, and MTV had started up, and there's just many things like that we thought, well, look, let's be part of the wedge that's going to break it open.
We'll return with our interview of In Excess in just a moment.
The idea was that we didn't want to put ourselves into a category.
I'm Jim Ladd. Welcome back to our interview of In Excess. You know, every nation has its history of social problems that usually run very deep. The plight of the American Indian in our country parallels Australia's dilemma with their own true natives, the Aboriginal tribes.
People sometimes confuse the Aboriginal problem as like a black problem, which it really isn't. It's much more of a anthropological problem. It's
a white problem, really.
It's a white problem, exactly. You know, and they've really been, because they're such a easygoing race and could not understand, like I was saying before, they didn't understand what "buy" meant. So they are just conned out of so much land, all their land, all the tribes broken up. They have very, very serious values about things, very sensitive. I mean, I think Australian government's going to be in a lot of trouble real soon.
On the LP Shaboo Shaboo, two different streams of consciousness meet in the song Old World, New World.
This seems to discuss a man's search for a spiritual answer or a spiritual path by looking toward the old ways and the old rituals, while at the same time we're going pell-mell into
in the future.
Yeah, high-tech land.
Yeah, that's quite true. You know, that's pretty good. That's people tend to think they're living in modern times, when in fact people who live in the old world, people that get up and sort of roast frogs over coals for breakfast, are actually more in tune with their times than we are, because we cannot make our cassette players, we can't make our microwave ovens, etc., endless list, cars and everything. And so there's only a handful of people that are actually smack bang in the middle of modern times, because they are people that make it for you, the inventors and the scientists and the technicians. They are really the modern people.
The conclusion of our interview with Michael Hutchence of In Excess, right after this.
In Spy of Love, this sounds like you're talking about a very covert type of Cupid. Who's on the phone
Who's
right
on
now?
the phone?
Excuse me.
Hi, I love you.
I'm Jim Ladd, and we're back now with the conclusion of this interview with In Excess.
Let's see. We were talking about, the Spy
of Love, yeah.
Spy of Love, yeah.
Well, it was just this idea that no matter what you do, or what I did, I guess, or my friends did, that in matters of the heart, either one person or many people that kind of push you and shape you, you know. And I just put it down to the Spy of Love.
Now, let's turn our attention to another track on Shaboo Shaboo. It's called The One Thing.
Seems like a song about a very sultry woman. I don't know if she's...
Yeah, it's I think it's more a case of a lust song rather than a love song,
Yeah.
that one. And the chorus can be a little bit confusing to some people who think I'm saying, "You are my thing," in reference to an object, whereas it's more of the old beat terminology of, my thing.
My thing.
But yeah, definitely a sort of a lust song, that one.
Yeah, this is not the girl you bring home to see Mom.
No. Well, you could. Yeah. You just have to be careful.
Was this based on, I don't need names, but I mean, was this based on a real person or a compilation of Vargas?
Well, actually, it's probably based on my initial feelings for the girl that I live with right now. Funnily enough, so I did bring her home to Mum. Yeah.
Jeez, I didn't mean to.
No, but it's, like when you first, it's more like, when you first see somebody and it's, purely chemical reactions going on.
Well, are you enjoying America? Do you is this a nice place to visit, but you definitely wouldn't want to live here? I mean, what?
Yeah, I gotta be careful. No, I love it. I'm moving in.
This is the representative from the record company. Don't forget the American market.
No, I think it's a very interesting place, and I really enjoy traveling, so I try and lap up as much as I can.
Yeah.
Having lived here already, anyway, so I have a different view. I think the band really has a home in Australia and really has a heart in Sydney and Melbourne and a few other places. But we do enjoy coming here, and we love it because you can immerse yourself in the culture. And a lot of people try and fight it, and that's why they don't enjoy it.
Well, for a country whose biggest cultural contribution until, the 80s was Tie Your Kangaroo Down, it's nice to see you guys coming out of the closet. Really.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight for our interview of lead singer Michael Hutchence of In Excess. And I hope you join us next week, same time and same frequency, for another interview. I'm Jim Ladd.